The courtroom was supposed to be a place of justice, but for Maya, it felt more like a trap. Calm, composed, and sharply dressed, she stood quietly before the judge. No one in the room knew her story. To them, she was just another black woman caught up in a legal mess. The white cop who accused her wore his badge like a shield, confident, smug, certain he had the upper hand. He claimed Maya attacked him during a routine traffic stop, that she resisted, got violent. His words painted her as aggressive, dangerous, exactly the kind of narrative too often swallowed without question. But Maya was far from what she appeared. Beneath the surface, behind that calm expression, lived a warrior trained in the highest ranks of the U.S. military. A Navy SEAL. Lethal, precise, and silent. She had seen things most people couldn't imagine, and done things they wouldn't believe. Still, she had chosen a life of peace after her service. She stayed quiet, thinking it would protect her. But silence only gave power to lies. Now in front of the judge, her name was being dragged through the mud. Her life threatened not by weapons, but by twisted words and a crooked system. What the officer didn't know was, he just picked the wrong woman to frame, and court was about to take a very unexpected turn. Maya hadn't planned to step foot in that courtroom. For years, she'd kept a low profile, far from the noise of her past life. After leaving the Navy SEALs, she moved across the country, trading missions and covered ops for a quiet job at a community center. She worked with kids, helped veterans, and minded her own business. But trouble found her one night on the side of a dark road, where flashing red and blue lights changed everything. The officer said she ran a stop sign. She knew she didn't. Then came more questions, more pressure. When she calmly asked why she was being pulled from her car, his attitude shifted. Aggressive, hostile. He didn't see Maya the person. He saw a target. By the time the night was over, she was in cuffs, accused of assaulting an officer and resisting arrest. There was no body cam footage released, no witness statements considered, just his word against hers. Now in court, his voice was calm but rehearsed, like he'd done this before. The prosecutor seemed to nod along with every word. Maya sat still, her face unreadable. No one knew who she really was or what she was capable of. The truth was buried deep under the uniform she no longer wore. But the lies were piling up fast, and Maya knew it was only a matter of time before everything cracked. Maya's public defender barely looked at her when they met. Overworked and juggling too many cases, he treated her like just another file on his desk. He didn't ask about her past, didn't dig into the holes in the officer's report. He just said, asterisk, it's your word against his. Best we can hope for is a plea deal. Asterisk Maya stayed quiet, but inside she felt the familiar heat of injustice rising. She hadn't fought through war zones to be silenced in a courtroom. Meanwhile, the cop officer Riley kept showing up in the hallway outside the court, exchanging nods with the DA, laughing like he had nothing to worry about. But behind his confidence was something else, something darker. This wasn't his first questionable arrest. There were whispers in the community, stories that didn't make the news. People who tried to complain, then backed down. Some got arrested again. Some just disappeared from public view. Maya's best friend, Tasha, had started digging. She worked in local media and knew how to find things others missed. Old complaints, body cam inconsistencies, past lawsuits that were quietly settled. The more she found, the more it pointed to a pattern, one that led straight to Officer Riley and a handful of others just like him. Maya didn't want the spotlight. But now the system wasn't just trying to punish her, it was trying to erase her. And this time, she wasn't going down without a fight. The day before Maya's final court hearing, Tasha showed up at her apartment, eyes wide, laptop in hand. "You need to see this," she said, pulling up a folder of files. Hidden in police records, she found a dashcam clip from another arrest. Different case, same officer. The video didn't match the written report at all. Just like Maya's story, the suspect had been calm, respectful, until Riley escalated without warning. The charges in that case had mysteriously vanished, settled, buried. Maya leaned back, silent. She could feel her old instincts kicking in, the kind she'd tried to leave behind. Her training taught her to wait, to plan, to strike only when the moment was right. And now, surrounded by fake smiles and twisted truths, that moment was getting close. In court, the pressure was thick. The prosecutor painted Maya as hostile and dangerous. He repeated the officer's version of the night with polished certainty. Every time Maya looked at the jury, she could feel the weight of their doubt. They didn't know who she really was. Not yet. Then the judge announced a surprise. Officer Riley himself would testify the next day. Maya's heart didn't race. Her breathing stayed steady. But deep inside, something sharp was waking up. The courtroom had become a battlefield, and the truth was finally on its way to the surface. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. Word had spread, and people from the community quietly filled the benches. Some had stories of their own. Others just wanted to see what would happen when Officer Riley took the stand. But no one expected what came next. Just before the session began, the prosecutor requested a private sidebar. Whispers followed, then murmurs. When the judge returned, he looked unsettled. "There's been a development," he said slowly. "We've received new evidence this morning from an anonymous source." Maya kept her eyes forward, calm on the outside. But she already knew. Tasha had moved. Whatever she'd sent in must have been big. The judge ordered a brief recess to review the contents. Minutes ticked by like hours. Then the buzz started. One of the court officers, standing by the door, whispered something to the bailiff. His face changed. He moved quickly. Back in the courtroom, everyone turned as Officer Riley entered to testify. But instead of heading to the witness stand, he was stopped cold. Two internal affairs investigators stepped into the aisle. One of them spoke clearly. "Officer Riley, we need to speak with you immediately regarding an open investigation." Gasps rippled through the room. Riley stiffened, jaw tight, but didn't move. Maya didn't flinch. The walls were starting to crack, but this wasn't over. Because someone else in the room was hiding even more, and what came next would change everything. Officer Riley's face stayed frozen, but his eyes flicked toward the exit. The investigators stepped closer, and the judge called for order. It was chaos in slow motion. Finally, Riley was escorted out, not to testify, but to answer questions of his own. For the first time, the courtroom felt like Maya's silence had spoken louder than anything. The prosecutor, now rattled, asked for an extension, but the judge denied it. "Proceed," he said. "We're not pausing this trial for a witness under investigation." That moment shifted everything. The jury leaned in. Their eyes on Maya weren't clouded with doubt anymore. They were curious, even concerned. Her defender finally stood with some fire, holding up the newly submitted files. These documents and video clips directly contradict Officer Riley's statement. They reveal a pattern: consistent abuse of power, altered reports, and suppression of evidence. He paused, then added, "And my client stayed silent because she believed in the system." But now we see she was the only one in this courtroom acting with discipline, restraint, and truth. The jury whispered among themselves. Tasha stood in the back, tears in her eyes. Maya didn't break down. She just closed her eyes for a moment and exhaled. The verdict came fast: not guilty. The courtroom erupted. But just as Maya was walking out, free and finally vindicated, a quiet voice called her name. A woman, dressed in plain clothes, stepped forward. "Maya, we need to talk. We know what you did overseas. You weren't supposed to be found." Maya turned slowly. The battle she thought was over might have only just begun. Maya paused, eyes locked on the woman. For a second, it felt like time folded in, courtroom behind her, battlefield ahead. But then the moment passed. "Not today," Maya said quietly, her voice steady. The woman gave a small nod and backed away, leaving only a card in Maya's hand. Another chapter waiting, but not now. Outside the courthouse, sunlight broke through the clouds. Tasha ran up and hugged her tight. "You did it," she whispered. Maya smiled, but it wasn't just about freedom. It was about being seen, being heard finally. The truth had come out, and those scars remained. They were hers to carry, not cover. Officer Riley was under federal review, and several other past cases were being reopened. Tasha's story made headlines, shining light on abuse that had lived too long in the shadows. And the community? They started speaking up. Not just for Maya, but for themselves. Maya returned to her quiet life, but something had shifted. She wasn't hiding anymore. She knew now that silence can protect, but sometimes it can also suffocate. Justice didn't come easy. But when it did, it reminded everyone watching that strength doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it's just standing your ground and refusing to disappear.